Wow. This is episode 34 of the Kevin Turner Show podcast. And we have video for this.
Well, I guess I'm a filmmaker.
This is for the guy I'm interviewing because I just have, this is just audio and it's just going to be there. But then now we have maybe a companion piece.
Multimedia.
This is incredible. For a guy who only knows audio and doesn't even know that very well, I really just know hanging out, goofing off. Those are kind of my specialties. I don't really have any expertise.
Yeah, we haven't hung out much outside of partying and social affairs. This is kind of different.
All of our hangouts are group events or I should reset. Hello, welcome to episode 34 of the Kevin Turner Show podcast. I never do a really good intro. The man joining me today is Chris Fitzpatrick, the almighty Fitz.
Hello.
Some may remember him as a villain. I don't. But it just depends which Soroy brother you're listening to.
I got wronged in that one.
You did get wronged in that one. Fitz, selfishly, I have to set it up this way. I got out of college in 2010, but I started interning at the Ticket in 2009. And one of the things they ask you to do at the Ticket is go cover a Mavs game or go cover a Ranger game and get audio. And me, I think a lot of people now kind of see me as a guy who's kind of outgoing and all that. I was not that at all. Pretty straight-laced, pretty keep to myself, still a little overweight. But the thing that was very very interesting is I would always want to meet people, and then you want to make sure that they remember you the second time or the third time and the fourth time, and you're not just some mystery. And you were one of the guys who was always very nice to me. And because you're just covering games, and we're just covering games, what we're doing in life.
You're stuck in a locker room with half-naked men waiting for them to shower and just okay, when is this going to get over? There's not much else to talk about.
My least favorite place to be is the sports locker room. I hated it. I didn't understand it. I think the rules are dumb still. Can we just let them shower and relax? I get we have deadlines. Well, do we still have deadlines? Kind of not anymore, right?
They don't care about it.
So I know we want to get the press conference, but I don't know. There's a lot of just kind of lingering outside a guy's locker, and you are always carrying a big ass camera on your shoulders. But there's also a lot of standing around and waiting.
That's what that job essentially is most of the time, is hurry up and wait. It's always the joke you always say to people. You're always trying to make sure you're not late, because if you're late, then you're obviously you're going to know about it.
So you're there, and think about this technology in 2010. I mean, you had your phone, but you couldn't do as much as you could now.
Mm-mm.
Now you can do everything on it.
That's a nuisance for a photographer too, for a videographer, because the people they can't get that audio, so they put that phone closer and they're right in your shot. And now it happens all the time.
So you were how long did you work at Fox Sports as a
full-time staffer? Yeah. I was there 2002. I think it was April of 2002, and I worked there full-time until 2016, summer 2016, wow. And they were doing some sort of cutbacks, and then they offered to have me come back.
Yeah.
But it was a month off, and so I had a lot to think about. And one of the things that I had to think about was, well, I can buy my own gear, and if I buy my own gear, I can do whatever I want. I can be a freelancer, and if I'm a freelancer, I can work on projects that I've always wanted to work on.
Yes, we're going to get to a big project in a second, because I watched it last night and enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm very excited that you did this cool project. So you went to University of Oklahoma. Where'd you grow up?
I moved to Plano when we moved from Oklahoma City to Plano. So from the ages of 3 to 10, I lived in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And then we picked up and moved. Dad got a job, and that was what brought me to Texas.
And then you go to college at OU. You're a big OU fan.
Yep.
Fitz is always talking about OU's college basketball chances, and I'm I'm kind of a Tech guy now. It's a good time to be a Texas Tech fan. So it's very conveniently. I'm a North Texas guy, so I don't have a real team.
It's hard to talk about college basketball around Dallas. Nobody really cares about it.
No. But I don't go to that gym anymore. But I used to, pre-COVID, I would run into Fitz almost every day at the gym that we both went to.
Yeah, that's
getting a good hard shred on.
That's right. That's another out of work location that we kind of don't even think about, where we see each other probably more than anywhere.
It is strange. Back in the days, Fitz is at the gym. Cool. That's right. I hang out with Fitz sometimes. but not a lot. But we all run in the same circle. We all know the same people.
Yeah, we catch up on our dirt.
And and that's where it's all very strange. But I think also, our biggest connection probably goes back to outside of me covering those games that you were doing all of them. Obviously, Skin's on the Mavs broadcast. So you've known Skin, you've known Ben and Skin for years.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about also like the Soroy brothers. I used to work on Cirque du Soroy back in the day. God, a long time ago. And I was it was the weekend show on the ticket for those that don't know. And I was usually doing tickers or running the board for them. And it was me and Machine. So we have all these people, and we used to joke about how that fits. What an asshole, You and Ted Madden were like the villains.
Well, Ted was a villain for different reasons. Ted was a villain because nobody could stop him in basketball.
God, what a jerk, dude. Why is he? And I've heard I haven't seen him in probably 5 years, but I've heard he can still make it rain.
Yeah, I haven't played. I've been playing a while because last time I got my nose knocked out. But I used to play with him in Shreveport because we used to work together in TV there. Just some great TV years, just 2, but it was like some of the most magical years of my career. But playing basketball with him all the time, I got to really know his game, and always when they're choosing teams, I would always hope to be on his team.
Okay, hold on. So did you go to Shreveport after college?
So I went, graduated, and then spent 4 months just watching movies and dicking around, and then got a job in Abilene.
Okay.
For 10 months.
I've definitely been there.
Yeah, and you probably didn't want to stay very. No. Bars close at midnight. I got there as fast as I could. Was there 10 months. Kept sending tapes out. Got you move up in market. Yep. So I got up to Shreveport, and that's where I met Ted. Was there for 2 years, and then I was 24, and got the magical heads up that there was a job opening at Fox Sports Southwest, back where I was kind of from. So it was huge.
Yeah. And then it's on working pretty much every night, doing a Mavs game or a Ranger game or a Cowboys practice or Stars game, I guess too.
Yeah,
you did it all. I saw you everywhere.
I kind of ran the gamut on different sports you could cover on different levels, and I covered, I don't know, I think it was 5 NBA finals, and it was kind of surreal looking back, and traveled with the Rangers and did a lot of cool things. Covered 1 Super Bowl, and but along the way I got to kind of carve my niche around there, and I used to work on these OU Texas stories. We do an Oklahoma Texas feature. Every year they'd be like, "Hey, can you do one?" They did one, they liked it, so did another one. So every year I would sort of do the lead story on that, and it got longer and longer and longer. So it was more. I've started developing my storytelling. All right, doing that.
Well, so then we get to 2016. Is that when you kind of branched off just freelance?
Yes, that's when I became a freelancer.
Because I remember when all that happened. And it was just layoffs, right?
Well, there was a bunch of they were getting bought out, and they wanted to ask people to, hey, if you walk away, we're going to give you a nice check and
options. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get that because I wasn't at this weird period where I think I had started working there about 8 months later, so I didn't have the chance to get that little option. But when they came back, they had 3 more spots, and it was just a numbers game. And I, was really surprised when they said, we're gonna have to let you go. It was the guy. I remember the guy that let me go. It was his last day. Oh. And then I remember standing in line with Soroy a month later, and I got a call from my old boss saying, "I think you're gonna want to jump on this call." I was like, "I'm literally at line about to walk into a Radiohead concert." He's like, "Well, if you can call and if you could." Get on a conference call with us in 20 minutes. I remember standing there. We were in row 6, standing there with Soroy. I'm like, dude, I've got to call this guy. And they wanted me to come back to Fox. And I'm like, I got a real serious decision to make.
Which concert was that? You were
Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, wow.
We were in Madison Square, standing outside at MSG. We get let inside. And between that time, I had to think about, oh my God, I'm going to have this conversation. But yeah.
There are worse places to be to think about that, I guess, though.
Yeah, no.
Although you do want to just stop and soak in and take in the moment.
Yeah, too. I really didn't want to deal with that, and I had a lot to think about. So it was like this little kind of dark cloud hanging over. But it was also I remember that weekend talking to everybody that I could in the business. Yeah. What should I do? Should I take this job back, or what are the opportunities? And it was 50-50. Dad told me, he was like, I'd probably take it back. He's pretty safe by nature, but some told me I just needed to try this out on my own and see where it took me, and it led me to what you watched last night eventually.
Well, yeah, no, and I think it's you see all these people have a lot of decisions, and it's weird because you're a little bit older than me, but I feel and you were around way before I was, but I feel like you're in the group of people that I came up with Machine, and even Mike Soroy in
Yeah.
cash. They'd been around longer than me, but Mike helped me get on board at the Ticket. Like, he helped and gave me opportunities in video at Fox that I definitely screwed up.
That's so fun.
But like I didn't have a job. Like, it was an intern level, type stuff. And he was giving me an opportunity.
Well, it's funny because I saw him get his opportunity at the Ticket. He was working at Fox, and we were all like, well, when he gets at the Ticket, all our friends were like, I remember talking to Ted Madden about that, and we were like, as soon as he gets in there, he's just going to spread his wings.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of one of those things. Is like once you got into radio, it was it. Like you knew that you had you carved out your own little your thing that you knew that your passion was going to be doing radio. And now like you're doing this podcast, and I mean I saw your Twitter followers. I was like, damn. I'm like, well, this is not 10 years ago. We've all kind of evolved so much, and we've gone to do different things, and we have different platforms now.
The real difference in the world is social media has kind of just ruined it. But like the 10 years ago, like social media was fun, and now it's not. But that's a whole different discussion. Now, but I've seen a lot of people that I know move up. My buddy Dave Hellman with the Dallas Cowboys, just took a new job, and it's just like when I start seeing all these people I know just start kind of spreading their wings and flying, really start doing stuff that they really want to do. That's where it's kind of really awesome. Now let's get to, like, you're a big music guy. I've always known that about you. I mean, a lot of people are big music people. We always talk music on this podcast. In fact, we do an album of the month podcast.
I've heard it.
We got an interesting one for you. That'll be next week's episode, though. But I had always heard, and maybe it's just like years of listening to the Hardline and the concert calendar, I've always heard of Big Mike, right? Big Mike's doing a show here. And I was like, is this the same guy? And I finally put it together last night, who Big Mike was. You did a documentary on Mike Hosty.
Yes.
That's incredible. And I didn't know a ton about Mike Hosty. I knew very little. And then I kind of pieced it together. When I watched it, I think what's kind of cool about this is you did a documentary called Oklahoma Breakdown, and it's about Mike Hosty, who is a local Oklahoma musician. But I think what's very interesting about it, for people that do know who he is and know him very well, are going to enjoy it. There was within the first 30 minutes, there's about 4 or 5 holy S moments for me. It was like, okay, like that it's going to suck in anyone from any age group or whatever. I don't want to give away a lot of the things that happen in the documentary because I want people to go see it. That's the right thing to do. How in the world did you go, this is the guy I want to do a documentary on?
That took, being back in college and being wowed by him and being at a packed house, seeing him interact with people and make people dance and tell jokes. And every single time I went, we always had a good time. Every single time. And he was bringing in girls and guys. It was just a great mix of college kids. And that still hasn't gone away. He still packs the bar with college kids. But I just knew every single time I came into Oklahoma, I always wanted to see him play, no matter what outfit it was in. And there was the first, I remember that he was, I think that was like really like, whoa, this dude is kind of singular when I saw him do his solo act thing. Like I hadn't really seen too many people do a one-man band, and this is like 99, I think I saw him at the Deli. And I saw him do a cover of In My Time of Dying, and I'm like, that's a great song. I'm like, wow, he's really nailing that, that blues guitar, what he's nailing. He's got the melody down, and I think he had a effect on his microphone, and he's blowing the harmonica, and he's doing all this by himself. And I'm like, okay, I haven't seen that much. And you see one-man bands now where they loop things and whatnot, but when you go see him, he's on a different level than just about anybody I've ever seen with his musicianship because he doesn't rely just on loops and triggers. Like he does it all naturally.
Yeah, and even when I see people who do the loop thing, like I'm always really impressed by it. But then what I really like what you did is so whenever I watch a music documentary, I love when they give you plenty of time in the documentary to watch the artist at work. Because sometimes it's just all story, and you did a good job of like, here's what he does, and it shows you, and it also shows people reacting to it in bars. Like you got tons of footage. Like, was that like a decision that you made when you were making, like, hey, I want to show him do a full song? Because that was very, once you see it, you can't even comprehend it until you see it. I was watching it going, oh, that's not, come on. Like it's unbelievable talent. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm glad you recognized that because that's something I had to really make sure to get out of the way. like this dude is so talented. You just need to let him take the audience on a journey
Yeah.
and let him do it. Just stay out of the way sometimes, because sometimes filmmakers will just 5 seconds here, 5 seconds here, and like, is that artist very good? I've seen so many music documentaries that are good documentaries, but I'm like, I don't know if the artist is really that good. It's a good story, but I don't want to make a music documentary about music that I hate, or music that's people that aren't talented or aren't making me feel something. And I wanted to make sure I got that across.
Man, I mean, his guitar playing. I mean, look, I don't want to give away too much of what happens. I do want to walk through a couple things that really jumped out at me. So in the beginning, he's kind of playing in a lot of different bands, right? I think Heater was one they kind of talked about. Mm-hmm. And I love the story because there's going to be, I mean, this crosses different decades too. I mean, this guy's been around forever, right? But in the 90s, the big story about Heater, they're going to play, but the audience is just there to see Deep Blue Something, who had just released Breakfast at Tiffany's, and everyone walks out and never sees Heater play a show.
Right.
I thought that was really cool. And then it jumps to the Mike Hosty trio, which that was really a wild story too. And I loved like the conversation. The 90s were really a diverse time of music. And I think you maybe don't remember that, but like kind of watching this kind of like reaffirmed, like there was a lot going on that I was 7 in 1995, dude. There was a lot going on with Nirvana. I missed grunge.
You missed the peak.
Yeah, I missed it all, but knew about it and would always, watch a little bit of MTV and things like that at an early age, but not enough to like comprehend what was going on. It's really just learning about it over time. And then like with grunge kind of fading, and then the Mike Hosty trio. So my favorite band's the Dave Matthews Band. And now I was like, this is more in that realm, I thought, because it had the saxophone.
A little bit, yeah, I could see that.
And a little bit like B3 organ going, and a lot of stuff like that going on. I was like, it's like closer to that, but it also has this blues element. And so there's a little bit of country, and it was just all this stuff mixed in, and it was really cool, and I could see how they would have, blown up.
Oh, they sucked you in, man. You go to a show, and it was all original. That was the other thing, because back then, even, that was when you had to start playing your own music, but they were doing something. There wasn't really anything around. It was almost like they missed their time. I think there was a guy who reviewed my film. He's like, it's almost like they missed the window. He kept doing things that he was either ahead of his time, or he just missed the window where something that different would have caught on. But by then, the late 90s, the music distribution industry was just it was just about to completely fall off a cliff. And in a weird way, maybe they missed it for the best.
Yeah, and it kind of talked about the VH1 contest that Flicker Stick ended up winning. And Flicker Stick, there's so many. And I remember in college, like, it was weird. My freshman year of college, had very little friends, and they did the whole, like, come on, as before school even started, having a big pep rally before the first game, and Flicker Stick's playing. And I'm like, man, I don't really know a lot about Flicker Stick, but I feel like they were a big deal like 10 years ago. Like, I didn't even know this is in 2006, right?
Yeah.
So it was wild to see Flicker Stick on there.
That's where they got their start.
It's amazing. And the Mike Hosty trio finished like third or fourth.
The VH1 Bands on the Run contest. And Flicker Stick, I think they're playing, I think my girlfriend's like, you're not going to believe who's playing this Friday at House of Blues. So here's a free plug. If you really like Flicker Stick, I think they're playing this Friday at House of Blues.
Watching it, I was like, because it's like
still going.
Bands on the Run's like a Battle of the Bands type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I almost thought, I gave it one episode because I almost gave it a shot. Was they were going to do the American Song Contest, which they do in Europe, the Eurovision Song Contest. Well, they did it on NBC. You have one band from each state. It's the American Song Contest. And I'm like, okay, this might be good. Snoop Dogg's hosting it, cool. And it all sucked.
Yeah,
like all of it was so bad, and I was like, okay, at least people were trying to do like actual music in the '90s. This was all pre-programmed. It was so bad.
But they ended up being reality TV spots, basically, and that's what that...
Not about the music.
No, and it's, you look back, and like he said, he was like, maybe that shouldn't have happened, and we would have been a punchline, essentially, I think is what he was trying to say.
But I also think, you talked about that, like, missing their time. There was an old sales guy at our old station named Andy, and he had a band in Florida. He lived in Orlando, and they were called Transmit Now. And we discovered this like 10 years after it happened, and we're just watching it before a show one day, and Skin was laughing, and Skin thought his name was Brad. I'll never forget that, too. And he's got this song, it's like, let's go out tonight. And it was like, but they kind of pop punk and kind of had like almost sounded like Fall Out Boy, right? It's like 2005. He goes, The problem is Mumford & Sons released their big record, like, maybe this was 2008. The problem is Mumford & Sons released their big record. We were about to go on tour in Europe, and then Mumford & Sons released their big record, and music changed. No one wanted to hear bands do what we were doing.
It was kind of old. It was got old hat by then, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not comparing the two at all because
Right.
this Mike Hosty guy, good God. Once you start showing footage of what he can really do, I mean, it starts on the guitar, but when he has to go solo and start playing the drums as well, and you're going, wait. He's doing this with both feet. He's got a bass drum. He's got a snare drum. He's taped it together.
Got a hi-hat.
He's got a hi-hat going on. Oh, wait, he's playing harmonica now. I mean, dude, that's
thumbing
that
the
guy's
bass line, yeah.
ridiculous. And you see a bunch of kind of music luminaries come in and start going, this guy should have been a bigger deal than what he is. And that's what I mean. Even like the transition when you brought Cody Canada in, I'm a big Cross Canadian Ragweed fan, as a lot of people are in this time, even though
I had to learn about him, really.
Oh, really?
I
Cool.
mean, I knew everybody around here knows the name Cross Canadian Ragweed, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's pretty much a national name. It definitely was about 10, 15 years ago,
Sure.
but I didn't know who Cody Canada was, and I had to. I remember after I got done with the very first interview, I'm like, okay, I need to see who else out there thinks about his talent the way that I do, and so I said, could you tell me a few people? And he's like, oh, I don't know. He's a really modest and humble guy, and he's maybe thinking about who do I really want in my documentary. I'm like, I had to get Stoney LaRue. I knew that was going to be, I had to get him, and he would agree to do it, no problem. And then, but when I reached out, he told me, he goes, Cody Canada might be good to talk to. I had no idea when I asked him, and he said yes, and I drove down to New Braunfels, and I showed up at his house. He was just like, he looked up to Mike, and I think that comes across in the documentary. I'm like, whoa, Mike, okay. I mean, that's good.
So that was the big moment for me because I grew up in a small town of 3,000 people, listening to a lot of that Texas country stuff, Cross Canadian Ragweed, Pat Green, Jack Ingram, some of those guys, and Jason Boland, and those guys were all kind of a part of that thing. And I listened to a lot of that in junior high. And I got to high school and I branched out. But I would listen to all that stuff. But Cross Canadian Ragweed was one that always stood because it wasn't just country. It had an edge to it. And also, I don't know if it's true or not, but allegedly Cody Canada is like a distant cousin of mine. But I don't know if that's fully true. Just run it up the chain. Grandparents say crazy stuff sometimes.
Let's figure this one out.
Yeah, it's hard to
on your
figure
podcast.
out. And I'm not sure that it all connects. But it was like Cody Canada, watching him play with Cross Canadian Ragweed over the years. And some of the first concerts I would go to, because the only place you could go see a show was in Wichita Falls. And I don't want to leave out Charlie Robinson. He's one of my favorites, too, back in the day. But Cody Canada was carrying that band, and that's no offense to the other guys in the band, but Cody Canada is singing. They have rhythm. He's playing lead, and he's just got the whole weight of the band on his back. And then you start watching Mike do what he does alone, and you're going, good God. So, like, you can almost see the inspiration. It just made me think about Cody a lot and Cross Canadian Ragweed's, their heyday, because I was just listening to that and hearing him talk about Mike the way he talked about Mike made me go, holy cow, what have I been missing?
Yeah, and I actually asked, Cody about what's it like, going on stage and doing more than one thing. And this was in the original cut. It didn't make the film, but he did say, like, he's like, I can barely do two things at once. He's like, I can play, rhythm guitar, and I can blow the harmonica, but you're just breathing in and out. You're just sucking and blowing, it's something that I can do a little bit of that, but he's like, but man, I can't play the drums. He's like, there's no way I could do that and then do all the other stuff. And it's not like, I tried not to over explain what he's doing. I wanted to show it, but what he is doing isn't just playing three chords and then stopping and singing, like he's thumbing the bass. He's doing the sick guitar. He is playing the rhythm, but he's doing 3-part drums with his feet, and that's another thing I just tried to show it. But like 3-part drums is not something normal for any one-man band. I mean, he's got two things going on his left foot, and he's going back, bouncing back and forth. Meanwhile, he's keeping the time with his right foot.
And he's not just playing chords with his guitar. Like, he's playing riffs too.
Oh yeah.
And that's like, that's the whole thing. I mean, when you see people that can play riffs and sing at the same time, you're going, whoa, okay, that's a lot.
Yes.
And then you throw in the drums to it.
And then the comedy too, which is like a whole nother,
Yeah.
like, how do you, and he does it in song, and, you know, it's just all the stuff that you saw, you know, I hope that resonates with everybody, because sometimes it might be going over their head, like, oh, can other people do this? I don't know.
No, I mean, I was definitely like, well, and it grows on you, because if you didn't, like me, didn't know a ton about him, you're like, okay, like, what is this? Like, it's almost the first 10 minutes, a lot of curiosity. And I thought another thing you did, though, you weaved in some family stuff and some things that he was going through. And I'm not going to give any of that away here, but you weave that, and then you go, now you start to care about the guy by minute 15, minute 20, minute 20. By 30 minutes in, you're locked in, and it's almost like I don't like pulling for the guy almost, because it's not I mean, it is a little bit of an underdog story in a way, because you do see the talent, like, where you go, this guy should be nationally famous.
Yeah.
You know, like, to everyone. And so there's a part of it there of kind of, you know, pulling for him. But I thought you did a great job of bringing in those stories that I'm sure, just given the vibe, you get the vibe that he's very, as you said earlier, a modest guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to talk about himself too much, probably. So I bet you had to work to get some stories out
Oh
of
my
him.
God, dude. I had to spend, I mean, the music stuff wasn't that hard to get out of him, but it was the other stuff, the stuff to get you to care about him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I can't make a 90-minute film just about the music that's going to resonate with somebody. I mean, at some point you got to be like, do I give a crap about this guy? But he is such, I mean, everything you see in the film is just it's still like a tip of the iceberg of how genuine he is. But his, just everything he went through in his personal life, and but he is very guarded when it comes to that stuff. He makes jokes. He deflects a lot with comedy.
Yeah.
You know, you could just tell. There's a lot of laughter, hopefully, in the film when you're watching it. But to get to peel back the onion, you know, to keep going layer after layer to get that personal stuff out of him, that took 3+ years to really. I had to keep going back and asking him questions. And then he opened up to me one time on a long interview we did, kind of early part of COVID, when I had time to throw stuff against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And when he talked about his father, I wasn't thinking he was going to talk to me. I thought it was going to be a lot of positive stuff, but as you see, it's not. Yeah. You know, there's some tension, a lot of tension there. And we did the screening at Dead Center Film Festival. Mm-hmm. It was last week or a week and a half ago, and his brother came up during the Q&A, and I could tell he was visibly shaken by the whole thing. And we talked after the Q&A, and he was like, everything Mike said was true, and he's like, I'm so glad you said. I could tell that it was opening. It was like therapeutic for him to see his brother open up about it, because his brother Thomas, his older brother Thomas, is very, you know, like, he's a lawyer, so he wasn't going to tell me. I mean, I never would have known. He never would have told me any of this stuff until he saw it play out on film, and he was like, yeah, Mike's right. The things that we dealt with and things he talked about, it's all true. And Mike opening up those kind of things about your dad, it's not easy.
So how long did this take you to pull off?
5+ years. And a lot of that is because when I'd show up to a gig, it's I'm not there's no audio person. I mean, like you know, we have these cameras right here. I'd set it all up. I had to do the audio. I got to do the lighting. I did all. It was a one-man crew, and that also included the editing.
Sure.
So, and I'm also trying to pay bills and work jobs, because
absolutely
I'm paying money to do this. And
freelance.
That's right. That's the way it is. But I wouldn't have been able to have this time. It was such a passion project. Like, it was the definition of a labor of love. Yeah. And I just sometimes have a couple weeks off or you're not working. I'm like, oh, I get to work on this. I get to drive to Oklahoma and see Mike play, or go talk to the doctor in Arkansas. I can set these things up that I've always known that I needed to do.
Yeah. What was it like for you doing a bunch of interviews and stuff and Q&As? Because you were at was it just one film festival?
So Phoenix,
Phoenix was the other one, yes.
The world premiere was in Phoenix in April, and Mike flew out to it.
Cool.
And so it's the first time I'd ever have a film played on a big screen. Yeah. Anything played on a big screen, you know. Like, I'd worked at Fox Sports and we had stuff air, but like sitting there where it's your film, and your brother's out there, my girlfriend's out there, and there are all these people who have no connection to the story are watching this for the first time, and you're just like, I hope they laugh at this joke, or I hope they understand the severity of this situation. Like, I hope they just get it, you know. I hope they're not lost in the story. And when they got done with it, there was a huge ovation. It was, you know, I'm like, wow, this is cool. This is really cool. And then the lady who was running the Q&A, Brenda, she said, do you want to introduce Mike now? Because I hadn't said that. He was there. I said, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Hosty. And the place erupted.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and he walked up on stage, and I was like, he is an absolute star right now.
Gosh, that's so cool. And then in Oklahoma, was it, were more people like familiar with him?
Oh,
at
yeah.
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 He's a legend there. I mean, the way that went down, and I think Cody Canada is like the same. He's a legend in Oklahoma too, right? And those parts are kind of
they're
a little lesser so than Mike.
Those guys are more household names. They're more
Yeah.
in the mainstream for sure. Mike's still an underground legend who is kind of this guy who's played a million bar gigs and he's always around, and I think he's taken for granted. It's like, oh, his name's on the bill. He's in Oklahoma City again. Well, he plays here twice a week.
Yeah.
3 times. He plays in Oklahoma all the time, which is why even people here don't know much in Dallas, don't know much about him. But he has played in Dallas. He plays in Fort Worth at the Magnolia Motor Lounge every couple months or so. He's got a little following going on out there. That's where Oklahoma Breakdown in Fort Worth was where it was sort of ground zero for the growth of that song, which is obviously a huge part of the film. And so he's got some following there. But the song Oklahoma Breakdown was why I named it that, the film after it, because I wanted to go after those people that were like, oh, I know who Stoney LaRue is. I definitely know that song. But why did you name it? Well, because Stoney LaRue didn't write that song.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to make that clear.
Well, and that was good that you got Stoney on there to talk about, like, admirably about Mike as well, and like how they used that. And I love just kind of the dynamics of putting a song together. I mean, I'm sure did you watch the Beatles thing? Did you have time to watch the Beatles thing?
I did. I watched 8 hours of it?
See, your documentary feels really short now after we all watched 9 hours of the Beatles. But I love the Beatles thing. And it was just like, I love watching bands put together a song. And there's something I'm regrettably haven't got to is the Paul McCartney and he's with Rick Rubin, and those
I've watched some of that.
I've watched like the first episode, and I haven't got back to it.
Oh, it's great. The songs you've listened to your whole life.
But even like I don't know if the Billie Eilish documentary is like, and I'm not like a Billie Eilish like fan or anything, but I know what she's done, but watching her and her brother construct songs in their room, I love that. So I love that you got him talking about what he was thinking when he just started farting around with the riff. And he was kind of walking the bass down.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll play a little clip of the song so people know how it goes. But him talking about just creating that song, and then by the end of it, you get the crowds jamming it. And it's just like that's what they all like. Oh, make sure we hear this song for here tonight because it's the big one.
That was the moment where I kind of remember. I think get chills thinking about it, but I got chills when I was doing it. So I drove out to Stephenville, Texas. 2.5-hour drive, and it was a Friday night. I had just been in Stillwater the night before interviewing a couple of Red Dirt guys, and I was like, man, they said, you need to go get him playing. You need to get Stoney playing the song at the Larry Joe Taylor Festival. It's a big Red Dirt festival. Yeah. I never heard of it.
Chili Fest, right?
Yeah, have you been there before?
No, but I've always heard about it.
It was definitely not a world that I was familiar with. But I showed up there and got to interview Jason Boland right before he went on stage, got them singing some songs. I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of people here. Well, then Stoney walks up, and he's, I had already interviewed him a couple weeks before that, and he's like, what the F are you doing here? Just like with a dip in his mouth. I was like, I'm getting you to play that song. I want to capture that. He's like, F yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah, man.
Everything that you'd expect.
Yeah, but it was, and they were chanting his name, and he's like, oh, definitely, it'll be last song, and so I mapped out. I remember mapping out because it's just me. I don't know if you watch the film, you probably don't know there's one camera shooting all of that. Yeah. I shot all that. I walked around getting different shots during his set, but I remember I had mapped out the route I was going to take to get behind the stage, and I had to talk through some security. Like I had to go really through a lot of red tape to get that point. But I remember when I got the beginning of the song, and he let him sing it. He's letting the crowd sing the song. He's out, where you step out and you just let the crowd sing the lyrics, which is always really cool to me. I've always loved that. Well, then I got behind the stage, and I'm standing up with, there's like 25,000, 30,000 people. It's a huge festival.
It's maybe the biggest Texas country festival I know, which
yeah,
I've never been to again. But.
Yeah, and so I got this shot of all these people with their fists in the air, and they're singing the song, and they're just, it was just a cool moment because I'm doing this documentary about this guy that they have no idea about, and they're singing the lyrics that he had scratched down on his dining room table 15 years ago, and they're all singing those lyrics that he scratched out, and they had no idea that he's the one that wrote it. And that to me was like kind of the whole point of doing this documentary. It was like, he got to spread that joy that I was talking about when we first started talking about this.
Everyone that makes a documentary, they talk about that one moment where they knew, that one big, and you'll see it when you watch it. And the people watching can choose what's their favorite part is, and that kind of thing. But you'll know when you see it. And even like the Michael Jordan thing, they're like, yeah, we knew when we finally got him crying that one time. We knew that was the moment. But yeah, I mean, seeing that, and like that song again, it's that song where everyone around here, not everyone, but people who follow country a little bit. And I don't follow country music at all anymore, like at all.
I never really have.
It was like junior high in my, dude, where I grew up, you didn't have a lot of radio stations.
Yeah.
You didn't have a lot of choices, right? So like, I didn't even know that song's like after a whole wave. I wasn't even listening to country music, but dude, my family lives in small town. They all know that song,
Yeah.
It's impossible for me to avoid. I think it's impossible for a lot of people to avoid. So many people have heard that song. They might not even know that's the one.
I only knew, obviously, that song because he referenced it all the time in shows. Oh, you can go to this Texas State Fair and see Stoney LaRue play it for $30. You can see me play it for free. He would just say that. But I was like, okay, I guess Stoney LaRue covered this song, and I knew it. I knew that he covered this song. Had never heard the song before we even started making the documentary. It was just like I was learning it as I went. But then I'm like, oh my God, this is a huge hit. I'm like, I didn't realize and it's like one of those top Red Dirt songs on every list and top Oklahoma songs and all that. I remember going to the Oklahoma State football game, and it said, what's your fan song of the game? And one of them was Oklahoma Breakdown. Of course, it said Stoney LaRue, and the other one was like, should have been a Cowboy because they're playing Oklahoma State. Okay, Toby Keith, yeah, whatever. So, but like, it was just like, man, this is a big deal.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I mean, it's a legendary country song of the last 20 years. I mean, and it's Mike Hosty's, not Stoney LaRue's.
That's right.
Which is kind of wild.
Hostone music. If you look on the album, it says Hostone music.
Billy Bob. It said Stoney didn't release it on a record. It was on the live record.
Yeah, they cleaned it up because there was a live. Live songs don't usually do too well, and then they just popped it out there. Like as you see in the movie, it was just like Stoney just got it in his head that he could cover this song, and and he says it too. He's like, you're going to hear a lot more about this band after, this song. Talking about Hosty. And it's almost like he had the foreshadowing in that is kind of crazy. Like he says he didn't think anything of it kind of, but I think he recognized there could be something here and he changed it. He did a great job with the song. Yeah. It's very catchy the way what he did with Oklahoma Breakdown. There's nothing like seeing Mike Hosty play it live at the deli on a Sunday night. Yeah. Which is, if you've never done that, if you're in Norman, if you're in Oklahoma on a Sunday or anywhere, but if you're in Oklahoma on a Sunday night, go see Mike Hosty at the deli, play that song, and you'll have a new appreciation for that.
So how do we get people to watch this thing? When's the official release date?
Well, there's no official release date yet because I'm still working on distribution.
All right.
Still trying to get it out to festivals. Mm-hmm. So we've played, like I said, at Phoenix. It showed 3 times in Phoenix, and it showed at Dead Center Film Festival, which was a big deal. That's a big film festival and one of the bigger ones on the regional tour. And, being that it's an Oklahoma Film Festival, that was huge. And so trying to just, you get the word out at these festivals, more people watch it, potential distributors gain an interest. And then eventually, hopefully, you get a deal, or I could potentially distribute it myself through various different ways. So I'm still working on that. But hopefully in Texas it'll show soon. I'm working on film festivals.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
OklahomaBreakdown.com is the website. I've got behind me for the people watching. For the people not watching, OklahomaBreakdown.com. It's that simple. You can just go to the website. What's next for you, Fitz?
Well,
a passion project in line here?
There's a couple that I've thought about. One is in the sports realm, and the other one is a particular musician that I've been fascinated with. He's kind of got a New York and LA tie, but honestly, I want to see this thing through because the hardest part about this is that I'm not on a big production team. I don't have a big producer work. I'm doing it all myself. Sure. So I'm doing not only it's like you do 5 years of this, and now what? Oh, now you need to gain a social media presence. Now you need to
Sure.
do interviews with people like yourself, to try to get the word out about it. I'm having to market it myself, which is not a normal. I mean, I'm doing all of it, so it's hard. I know I'm not the only filmmaker ever to deal with that, but having to shoot it, edit it, produce it, direct it, it's a lot of work, and I don't want to screw that up. I want to make sure I see it through.
Yeah, the social media thing is not the fun part for me. The growing that. That's not fun for me.
This is
the interviews talking about it. I would love doing stuff like that.
I'd love this part of it. This is great. I mean, it's easier too. I don't have to have to come up with something new material all the time. It's exhausting in a way. But I knew when I started getting on Twitter, it was because of this film. And honestly, I was like, well, what's my goal? My goal originally when I started this was to spread the word about Mike Hosty. So we got to find an image, and I thought I came up with a good image. And our Josh Steele, a friend of ours, he did the artwork behind it, which I was, very happy with.
It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he just nailed it, and I love that look. But you try to do all these things that are just going to be eye catchers, or whatever whatever you can do to draw in people that don't know about his story. Whatever I can do to get their attention, and that's why I'm doing it. Otherwise, I don't like doing social media stuff.
Well, I'm going to spam all of my followers here with all this, and then we'll be re-releasing this thing, whenever there's big news on it and things like that down the road. Keep sharing the thing because you're a good dude, Fitz.
Well, likewise, man. I mean, there's
you're
a reason.
Good dude.
There's a reason we have had many conversations, and none of them have involved actual been in the middle of media. They've just been jerking around and hanging out at Roy's Super Bowl parties.
I think people. Oh, I'm coughing. Hold on. I think people would be surprised about how little serious talk happens, and it is just a bunch of guys and girls hanging out, really, and waiting around. Not a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
You just run into people at a concert. I think I see it at concerts more than anywhere else. Used to be the gym.
Yeah.
Switch gyms. Just can't, and then mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I was kind of tired of that gym.
Well, everything was broken when you showed up.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Squeaky.
And COVID, and it's like, okay, let's move it on down the road. But Fitz, is there anything else that we can promote where we find you on Twitter and all this stuff?
Oklahoma Breakdown Doc.
Okay.
And then Fitz Films It.
It?
The Oklahoma Breakdown Doc is that's the website for the documentary, and then just personal, it's Fitz Films It. That's pretty much on all platforms.
All right. Anything you want to say to all of your loved ones or strangers?
Just make sure you go follow Mike Hosty wherever you can. Try to check him out. You may have a completely new experience when you see him play, and especially if you're going on a date and he's coming near you, it's a great way to impress the date because they're probably not going to know who he is.
All right, yeah, absolutely. Did that work for you?
Well, I do remember taking my girlfriend. I just started dating, and I was like, I've been working on this documentary on this guy, and halfway through, and she is a music snob. She is. I'm consider myself a really big music snob, as you probably have known me a little bit over the years. But she is hardcore, and she about 4 or 5 songs in, she's like, "He's a good one."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, good,
got her. All right. Well, that's Chris Fitzpatrick at Fitz Films at Oklahoma Breakdown Doc. OklahomaBreakdown.com's the website, and this has been episode 34. You will be hearing more from Fitz. I guarantee it. That's like the Men's Warehouse guy.
I guarantee it.
You're going to like the way you look. Now, is that Men's Warehouse?
I don't know, but that sounds right.
It doesn't matter. All right. Well, there we go. See you next time. And an outro for the podcast plays. Doo-doo-doo. We did it.
We did it.